Spoiler tag plus space plus Black Heart Scroller King. As soon as Song Fuyao traveled through the bullying scene, he discovered that he had become the protagonist of the Holy Mother in the Dog Blood era literature. Faced with a top-notch family and a reborn supporting actress, she showed no hesitation. As the Black Heart Scroller who obtained the spoiler label, she chose to impersonate a mystical expert, but her iron tongue was broken. First, I paid a compensation from my enemy, and then caused the top-notch family to go crazy and become embroiled. So, she prioritized boys over girls and only considered her lucky star to be a cheap mistress in her nest. The cheap old man, who is lazy and always neglects his job, obeys her every word. The beautiful mother with a love brain started her career from dawn to dusk, while the selfish love brain elder sister focused on making money, and her 5 younger sisters became her chosen workers. The only precious egg in the family, my younger brother, became the best leek king and had to earn dowry for my sisters at a young age. There are countless big shots rushing to give her money, begging her for guidance. Song Fuyao happily ate melons while lying down counting money, while also deceiving the major villain in the book. As for the top-quality Phoenix male lead in the original text who indulges in soft and hard food, crawl for her. P.S. The female protagonist has a dark heart and is determined not to be the Virgin Mary. She likes to deceive the top-grade inner circle. Keywords of the novel. Through the book 80. Even the best have been rolled up and cried by me without any pop-ups, through the book 80. Even the best have been rolled up and cried by me. Download the complete text. Through the book 80. Even the best have been rolled up and cried by me. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Through the book, encountering the crazy critics of the anti-faction. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Through the book, encountering the crazy critics of the anti-faction. As soon as Song Fuyao became aware, he found himself soaking in water with piercing pain in his eyes. Water kept pouring into her throat and nose, and the intense suffocation made her feel as if her lungs were about to explode. Song Fuyao instinctively blinked his eyes, stepped on the water and floated up, only to find his arm tightly grabbed by someone. One hand was like a pair of iron pliers, tightly gripping her arm and pulling her into the water. Song Fuyao looked over angrily and found that the person holding her was actually a young man with unfamiliar eyes. He had fair skin and was handsome and gentle, but now he smiled at her with a malicious expression on his face. Didn't you just pretend to be dead? Why don't you pretend now? However, this was not the point was that she saw a strange label floating above the other person's head. Human face and animal heart. Song Fuyao didn't have time to think much. She was infuriated by the malice on the young man's face, and aimed a punch at his nose bridge. Ah! The other party let out a scream and instinctively released their hand. She took the opportunity to surface and took a deep breath. But the young man quickly approached again, his eyes glaring fiercely at her. How dare you hit me? Without saying a word, Song Fuyao directly aimed at his nose and punched him again. She has no strength all over now and can only focus on one area to fight. Ah! The young man screamed again, instinctively covering his nose with his hand and glaring at Song Fuyao with increasingly fierce eyes. Song Yao, dare you hit me? After speaking, he shouted and rushed toward Song Fuyao. However, Song Fuyao was already prepared and kicked him hard with his foot. Not only did he not pounce, but he also used the reaction force to distance himself in the water. She looked around cautiously and noticed that someone had already swam towards her, which made her sigh of relief. Just the next second, she saw a strange label on the other person's head as well, crazy criticism of villains. Song Fuyao's whole body suddenly became bad. She doesn't have much strength now, and her head hurts as if it's about to explode. Dealing with the young man with a human face and animal heart just now is already very difficult. If there is another, crazy criticism of the villain, she might as well ascend to heaven in place. Song Fuyao instinctively wanted to escape, but she had no strength and could only float in place and act according to the situation. At this moment, she suddenly heard the young man who had threatened her fiercely before. "If you dare to speak up about what happened just now, I will kill you. Keep your mouth shut, you know. Little girl." Song Fuyao pursed his lips and remained silent. At this moment, something seemed to explode in her mind, with countless unfamiliar memory fragments swirling in her mind. Although very uncomfortable, she finally knew the identity of the despicable young man in front of her, as well as her own situation. She has traveled, and the original owner of this body is named Song Yao. She is only 13 years old this year and is a rural girl. And this young man's name is Tang Wenbin, who lives in the county town and is a junior high school classmate of the original owner's sister Song Zhao. It's summer vacation now, and Tang Wenbin came to the countryside with a girl named Lin Qinxue to play with Song Zhao today. The girl is also related to the original owner. After they arrived, Song Zhao was very happy and took them to play around. Lin Qinxue specifically called the original owner together. As a result, the original owner followed the three people like a little maid, helping them dig wild vegetables, pick wild flowers and fruits, climb trees to pick bird eggs, and make grass weaving. "I'm so tired that I'm sweating all over, and I've been sunbathing." Lin Qinxue and Tang Wenbin also want to grab fish and have it grilled. The original owner suggested fishing, but Tang Wenbin felt that fishing was boring and insisted on going down the river in person. Not long after he went down, he thumped and shouted for help, saying he had a leg cramp. The original owner wanted to shout for someone, but Lin Qinxue said it was too late and urged the original owner to go down the river to save the person. The elder sister of the original owner, Song Zhao, was also urging on the side, as if the original owner was committing a heinous crime by not going into the water to save people, and wanted to kill Tang Wenbin. The original owner jumped down. But when she tried her best to swim to Tang Wenbin's side, she was tightly held and teased by him. She only then realized that Tang Wenbin was intentional. He didn't like her, so he pretended to drown and deliberately teased her. The original owner thought he was a good person, considering his refined appearance, fair skin, and polite demeanor. However, he didn't expect this person to have a human face and animal heart. He deliberately pulled her into the water and let her drown, just to see her pitiful struggle after drowning. But the original owner had already suffered from heatstroke, and his whole body was soft and weak. After being teased by him, she quickly lost the strength to struggle and could only plead with Tang Wenbin to let her go. But Tang Wenbin not only didn't let go, but also kept shaking her body in the water, as if teasing a kitten, playing around with her recklessly. The original owner quickly lost all consciousness in endless fear and despair due to heatstroke and lack of oxygen. And the person who woke up again became her Song Fuyao. Song Fuyao stared at Tang Wenbin tightly, his eyes turning red with anger. She has always hated bullies, and this beast even killed the original owner. "You dare to stare at me?" Tang Wenbin was startled by Song Fuyao's cold gaze, but soon became furious. "Song Yao, don't forget what I just said. If you dare to say it, I will definitely kill you. And your little sisters and precious little brothers. Oh, by the way, there's also Song Zhao. If you dare to speak up, you will all die. He will still die very miserably." He kept splashing water, letting the sound of the water cover his own voice, so that no one knew he was threatening Song Yao. Song Fuyao remained silent. She could not agree to Tang Wenbin's threat, nor could she refuse him at this time. Although someone swam over, she dared not hold on to any hope with the label of crazy criticism of the villain. Now she has no strength all over, and her head is still hurting badly. She can only rely on a will to survive to barely support herself. Instead of wasting energy now, it's better to hold on to my life for now. Once your body recovers, calculate the total amount of things that are not as good as this beast. Song Fuyao was secretly wary of Tang Wenbin, while looking at the person who was approaching. That person looks very young, handsome, and should also be a teenager, but unfortunately she doesn't know what the other person will do. Song Fuyao was secretly anxious in his heart when he heard Tang Wenbin sarcastically say, "You don't think he will save you, do you? Don't dream, he's a person who doesn't get up early and won't care about you." Song Fuyao's heart suddenly thumped, feeling a sense of despair. Her body has become increasingly heavy, and if no one helps her, she will soon sink to the bottom of the water. At this moment, Tang Wenbin gave her a proud smile and pretended to be panicked, shouting, "Li Xingyuan, please help me. My leg is cramping." Song Fuyao listened to the name, Li Xingyuan, and felt as if he had been struck by lightning all over his body. "Wait, Li Xingyuan. Isn't this the crazy criticism of the big villain in the era of dog blood literature she read before? Is it the same name? But the female lead of that book is called Song Yao." Recalling the plot of that book and carefully comparing it with the original owner's memory, Song Fuyao felt a sense of darkness in front of him, with an impulse to vomit blood. She not only traveled through time, but also dressed up as the Virgin Mary in an era of dog blood literature. As Li Xingyuan approached, Song Fuyao bit his tongue hard and rushed towards him with force. Whether she's wearing a book or not, she must live her life now. Song Fuyao grabbed Li Xingyuan's hand and held onto it tightly. In the face of embarrassment and loss of life, she chose not to lose face. "Help me." Li Xingyuan was startled by her bright eyes and instinctively grabbed her hand. On the other hand, Tang Wenbin also quickly swam towards Li Xingyuan. He didn't like Song Yao, but he didn't want Li Xingyuan to save this little girl ashore first. "Li Xingyuan, as long as you rescue me first, I will give you 5 yuan. Song Fuyao immediately became nervous and instinctively said, "I'll give you 10 yuan. Tang Wenbin immediately mocked, "You little country girl, where did you get 10 yuan? Song Fuyao was about to say something, but a hint of disgust quickly flashed on Li Xingyuan's face. He then pulled her and swam out like an arrow. She was surprised by the explosive power of this person when suddenly she heard Tang Wenbin's roar coming from behind, "Li Xingyuan, how dare you kick me? Finally opened a new book, please collect it." End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Label, there are 300 taels of gold here. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Label, there are 300 taels of gold here. Song Fuyao heard Tang Wenbin's roar and only then understood where Li Xingyuan's explosive power came from. He actually kicked Tang Wenbin. I have to say, well done. You can't be too polite to something that's not as good as a beast. Unfortunately, she doesn't have the strength at the moment, otherwise Tang Wenbin would know why the sky is so blue. Song Fuyao sighed regretfully in his heart and quickly said to Li Xingyuan, "Tang Wenbin just pretended to be drowning and tricked me into going down to save him. I was already suffering from heatstroke at the time, but he pulled me into the water and tried to drown me, pretending to be an accident. He is with Lin Qinxue, and they don't like me, so they deliberately bully me like this. When you swam over just now, Tang Wenbin threatened me not to speak out, otherwise he would kill my whole family." Li Xingyuan looked at Song Fuyao puzzled and said, "This little girl deliberately said these things to him, is she trying to win his sympathy and let him save people to the end? Although he doesn't like Tang Wenbin, he doesn't want to take over this trouble." He planned to pretend not to hear, but to his surprise, Song Fuyao immediately said, "You can testify for me, just say you saw him pull me into the water and heard him threaten me. Tang Wenbin and his father are going to be promoted recently, and Lin Qinshue's parents are also respectable people. They definitely wouldn't want such a stain to appear. As long as you say that, they will definitely give you a sealing fee. I don't want any of that money, just keep it for yourself and treat it as a thank you gift from me." Li Xingyuan looked at Song Fuyao incredulously. He thought she was asking for his help, but she was actually calculating the sealing fee. Do you still want to use the sealing fees given to him by the Tang and Lin families as a token of gratitude? Has this little girl become proficient in her calculations? Surprisingly, he can do business even better than him. If I take their sealing fee, I won't be able to testify for you anymore. Li Xingyuan was curious and said, "What good would it be for you if you let me do this? Is this little girl thinking of such a way to thank him for saving her life, but she can't repay him with money? But she is so calculating, how could she really engage in such a loss-making business of sacrificing herself for others? Tang Wenbin and Lin Qinxue really want to bully her like that, doesn't she want revenge?" Li Xingyuan couldn't figure it out, but it's better to know what Song Fuyao plans to do next. He stared at Song Fuyao's pale face, hesitating whether to continue questioning, when he heard Song Fuyao say, "If you receive the sealing fee, doesn't it mean I have repaid my life-saving kindness? How can you say it's not good for me? As for my share, of course, I will personally negotiate with them." Li Xingyuan. Well, he knows that this abacus master cannot sacrifice himself for others. But what exactly is she planning to do? He wanted to ask again, but found that Song Fuyao was weakly leaning against him. And someone has already rushed to the river, and someone has jumped off the river, apparently to help save people. Now is obviously not the time to ask these questions, he can only give up questioning and save the person ashore first. With the help of the villagers, Song Fuyao was quickly rescued ashore. Shortly thereafter, Tang Wenbin was also rescued. He had the strength to go up on his own, but now he saw many people coming to the shore and others diving. He could only pretend to be physically weak and wait for the villagers to rescue him from the shore. When Song Fuyao was rescued and landed, his entire face turned pale. The wet clothes of summer cling tightly to her body, but fortunately, she is still young and her body has not developed any curves yet. She is flat and withered, so there is no need to worry about making a fool of herself. Although it is summer now, perhaps due to soaking in water for too long and losing a lot of energy, Song Fuyao only feels cold all over at this moment. She was so cold that she trembled, but someone approached her without looking at her. "Yao Yao, what's wrong with you? It's been so long since we last saved someone. If you can't, just tell me earlier." As soon as Song Zhao came up, he was full of accusations, and upon hearing this, Song Fuyao's anger immediately rose. If it weren't for this foolish sister, how could the original owner have encountered such a thing? Even losing a life. She looked at the label of "Love Brain" on top of Song Zhao's head, so angry that she grabbed Song Zhao's skirt and used a clever force to make her body lose balance, and stumbled into the river. Anyway, there are many people at the moment and the water by the river is not deep, so she shouldn't drown, just go down and wake her up. Sure enough, after Song Zhao screamed and fell, he was quickly pulled ashore. Just the whole skirt was soaked through, wet and wrinkled, sticking to the body, becoming disheveled. She is just over a year older than Song Yao, and her body has slightly developed, but she is still withered. She was so angry that she pointed at Song Fuyao and cursed, "Song Yao, what's wrong with you? I just said a few words about you, you actually pushed me into the water." At this moment, Lin Qinxue, who was also frightened by Song Fuyao, said, "Yes, Yao Yao, how could you push Zhao Zhao into the water? She is your own sister." She was wearing a white dress, her voice warm and gentle, and she was also beautiful, like a swaying white lotus in the water, clear and ethereal, making people love and pity her. But Song Fuyao saw the label on top of her head. The 3 words, "Reborn Girl," directly frightened Song Fuyao's spirit. But what makes her more energetic is the label floating on the river surface. "There are 300 taels of gold here." Song Fuyao looked at the line of words and felt that his head was no longer hurting. Can't this label be her book-wearing benefit? This is good, there are benefits, it really gives. If it weren't for her lack of strength at the moment, she would have wanted to jump straight down and make a fortune. But since she can't make any money now, then let's beat the scum. Song Fuyao propped his hand on the ground and suddenly gritted his teeth to stand up. He pounced and grabbed Lin Qinxue's slender wrist. Immediately, he pulled up his sleeve and revealed his wrist, which had been bruised by Tang Wenbin's grasp. He angrily complained, "Lin Qinxue, why do you want to plan against me with him? Where did I offend you? You hate me so much and want Tang Wenbin to drown me. I was suffering from heatstroke at that time, and you even forced me to go down and save Tang Wenbin. Do you know how uncomfortable I feel when he forcefully pulls me into the water? Lin Qinxue looked at her incredulously, her suddenly widened eyes flashing with thick panic and guilt, causing Song Fuyao's heart to suddenly sink. She originally suspected that Lin Qinxue and Tang Wenbin were trying to play a prank on the original owner. But judging from Lin Qinxue's reaction, does this person really want the life of the original owner? Because she is a reborn daughter. Song Fuyao's heart was pounding wildly, and suddenly he felt his head starting to ache again, as if it was really about to explode. No, she doesn't have much time. Song Fuyao struggled to resist the constant exhaustion and drowsiness that swept through his body, but heard Lin Qinxue cry and deny, I didn't. Yao Yao, how could you think so? You let go of me first. Song Fuyao forcefully grabbed Lin Qinxue's wrist, and sure enough, Lin Qinxue felt pain and quickly struggled to push her away. Song Fuyao immediately fell down, his head tilted and he became absent-minded. Lin Qinxue. What's wrong with suddenly having a very bad premonition? She stared at Song Yao, who was lying on the ground, feeling that there was something wrong with the person in front of her. How does she feel that Song Yao is deliberately hitting porcelain? At this moment, Li Xingyuan suddenly rushed over and reached out to smell Song Fuyao's breath, then quickly said, No, she's weak in anger. It must have been drowning for too long after heatstroke, and then being pushed down by Lin Qinxue and falling on the head. We need to take it to the hospital as soon as possible. Otherwise, people will be in danger. Lin Qinxue frowned and instinctively retorted, I didn't push her, and I don't know how she fell down. It's really none of my business, I didn't mean to. However, upon hearing the news, Song's mother rushed over and said, Yao Yao. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Joining hands with the opponents to scam people. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Joining hands with the opponents to scam people. Song Fuyao, who had fallen to the ground, had actually reached her limit. She was only worried that no one would take her to the hospital after she fell unconscious, so she struggled to support herself and only dared to pretend to be unconscious. Now hearing the voices of Li Xingyuan and Song Mu, she felt relieved and truly fainted. Song's mother quickly rushed over and saw her daughter lying on the ground with a pale face like a water ghost. She immediately panicked. Yao Yao. Yao Yao, what's wrong with you? Don't scare Mom. Song Zhao, who was standing beside him, suddenly pounced and complained, Mom. My sister is too much. She deliberately pushed me into the water. Song's mother quickly turned her head to look at her and saw that she was wet all over. She immediately became worried and said, Zhao Zhao, did you also fall into the water? Is there anything uncomfortable? Li Xingyuan, who was guarding Song Fuyao's side, couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and glanced at the mother and daughter with some surprise. He originally thought that Song's mother would care about her drowning daughter, but to his surprise, she was easily attracted to Song Zhao's attention. Looking at the old clothes worn by Song Fuyao and the beautiful dress on Song Zhao, Li Xingyuan suddenly understood something. He originally disliked trouble, but thinking of her previous words, he decided to help her. After all, if she hadn't gone to the hospital, his sealing fee might have been wasted. At this moment, Song Zhao was still reporting, Mom, my younger sister is really going too far this time. I am her own sister, she actually pushed me into the water. Song's mother suddenly looked bitter and didn't know what to say. She felt sorry for her eldest daughter, but now that Song Yao is like this, she can't bear to blame her. This aunt. Li Xingyuan couldn't bear it anymore and deliberately shouted, her condition is very serious. She must be taken to the hospital as soon as possible, otherwise she will die. Song's mother was startled and said, What? Is it really so serious? Li Xingyuan continued, also, as she said before, she had already suffered from heatstroke, and Lin Qinxue and Tang Wenbin deliberately deceived her into going into the water and trying to drown her. As soon as he mentioned this, he was interrupted by Tang Wenbin's urgent roar, "Li Xingyuan, don't talk nonsense. When did I want to drown her?" Li Xingyuan gave him a cold glance and pulled up Song Fuyao's wrist, allowing everyone to see the blue and purple scratches on her slender wrist. "Isn't this what you caught? You tricked her into having leg cramps and asked her to come down to save you, but ended up dragging her into the water, trying to drown her. When I was diving to save someone just now, I heard you threatening her not to speak out, otherwise I would have killed her whole family. Tang Wenbin, dare you say you haven't done it before?" Tang Wenbin didn't expect him to hear it, and he immediately felt a bit flustered, with a hint of guilt on his face. At first, everyone didn't dare to believe Li Xingyuan's words, but now they were all frightened when they saw his guilty face. How old is this kid? How dare he do such a thing? You guys are too mischievous. Why are you so vicious at such a young age? Hurry up and take the child to the hospital, don't really cause any harm. Tang Wenbin lowered his eyes and looked at Song Fuyao lying on the ground with a cold expression. This dead girl dares to speak up. He glanced coldly at Li Xingyuan again, feeling even more dissatisfied. There was also this wild boy who didn't even have his parents, and there was only one old lady at home, who dared to oppose him. Li Xingyuan noticed Tang Wenbin's fierce gaze and immediately looked at him coldly, which frightened Tang Wenbin to quickly close his eyes. He sneered and tugged his lips, deliberately saying, "This is intentional homicide, let's report it." "No way." Tang Wenbin was so scared that he quickly retorted, "She's already like this, let's take her to the hospital first." Glancing at Song Fuyao on the ground again, Tang Wenbin felt very anxious. He just didn't like this girl and wanted her to suffer, but he didn't really want to drown her. If the police find out, no, we can't have Li Xingyuan report the case. And Song Yao, she must be taken to the hospital. She can't just die like this. He doesn't want to become a murderer. Tang Wenbin quickly said, "I did have a leg cramp just now, it wasn't intentional. She should have been too scared, so she was wrong. I don't blame her, let's take her to the hospital first." Li Xingyuan gave him a mocking glance, then pulled up Song Fuyao and carried her on his back. "Do you have a car? Find a car to take her to the hospital." Finally, the village used a tractor to transport Song Fuyao to the county hospital. Li Xingyuan followed and reminded the already panicked Song mother to quickly find a way to contact her husband. He had already realized that this woman was completely incompetent. It was impossible for her alone to help his daughter regain justice. At the hospital, Song Fuyao was sent for rescue, Li Xingyuan waited outside for the result, and Song's mother hurriedly went to find her husband. Tang Wenbin and Lin Qinxue sneaked away while others were not paying attention. The two of them left the hospital with very unpleasant faces. Lin Qinxue whispered to Tang Wenbin, "When you threatened Song Yao, how did Li Xingyuan hear you? You were too careless." Tang Wenbin was even more irritable than her. "I had been splashing water all along, but who knew the sound of the water was so loud and he was far away, and he could still hear it. He deliberately splashed water at that time, just not wanting anyone to hear him threatening Song Yao, but who knew that Li Xingyuan still heard him? That kid didn't like him when he came to see him. If he caught such a big handle this time, he would definitely not give up easily. I'm really annoyed, why did that kid run there? If I had known, he wouldn't have been tinkering around for so long." Tang Wenbin frowned and asked Lin Qinxue irritably, "What should we do now? That Song Yao won't die, will she?" Lin Qinxue's heart skipped a beat. If Song Yao hadn't said those words, she would have longed for Song Yao to die directly. But now, Song Yao not only talked about what she and Tang Wenbin did, but also suddenly fell after being pushed away by her. If she really died like this, she and Tang Wenbin would be in trouble, maybe they would be caught. Nowadays, unlike later generations, when handling cases, the procedures are not as strict. And if they are caught, they will definitely not be able to withstand the interrogation. If Tang Wenbin confesses her at that time, no, we can't sit idly by, we must find a way quickly. Now we can only find a solution from Li Xingyuan, Lin Qinxue analyzed. As long as he says he didn't hear anything, Song Yao has no witnesses. After pausing for a moment, she reminded Tang Wenbin, and you must bite to death. It was a leg cramp at the time, and you must not admit that you were intentional. As long as you don't admit it, the Song family will have no choice but to report the case to you. Anyway, there is no surveillance now, and both of them were in the water at that time, so outsiders can't even see the situation under clear water. As long as Li Xingyuan's mouth is sealed and she and Tang Wenbin bite to the death and refuse to admit it, the Song family can only stare blankly. Lin Qinxue glanced at Tang Wenbin's expression and gave him some advice. If you're not confident, why don't you go find Uncle Tang and tell him? Well, I'm going to find my dad now. Can you also tell my family? Tang Wenbin's eyes flickered as he spoke, we didn't mean to, we can't let Song Yao and Li Xingyuan slander us. After he finished speaking, he rode his bike and left. Lin Qinxue looked at his departing figure, curled her lip strangely, and then looked towards the hospital not far away. Song Yao, in this life, what qualifications do you have to fight against me? End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Suspecting Li Xingyuan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Suspecting Li Xingyuan. After laughing, Lin Qinxue also rode her bike and walked away. That old man Song Yao is not easy to fool. She needs to talk to her parents carefully and prepare in advance. Riding a bicycle, Lin Qinxue went directly to her father's workplace. He works at the Power Supply Bureau and his position doesn't seem high, but there are many people who flatter him on a daily basis. Lin Qinxue went to the Power Supply Bureau and quickly found her father Lin Hongwei. Dad. Lin Hongwei sat in the office, looking at her in surprise and said, "It's scorching hot. Why did you come here?" "Dad, I have something to tell you." Lin Qinxue quickly walked forward and whispered to him, "Today I went to the countryside with Tang Wenbin to play. Tang Wenbin wanted to go down the river to catch fish, but his leg cramped. Song Yao went down to save him, but her strength was too weak to pull Tang Wenbin and she almost drowned. I don't know if anything unpleasant happened to them in the water. After Song Yao was rescued ashore, he insisted that I and Tang Wenbin intentionally harmed her and wanted to drown her. The person who saved her also said he heard Tang Wenbin threatening Song Yao. Song Yao still held on to my hand and said I wanted to kill her, but I just wanted to withdraw my hand. Who knew she wouldn't wake up if she fell down? Now she has been sent to the county hospital for rescue. I don't know if she can be rescued. Dad, what should we do about this?" Song Yao said to Li Xingyuan, "Tang Wenbin and I will not be treated as murderers, will we?" Lin Hongwei looked at her in shock and said, "Are you talking about Song Yao, a girl from the Song family?" "Yes, her father is Song Xuedong." Lin Qinxue nodded and said, "Tang Wenbin and I went to the countryside to play, and we happened to meet Song Zhao. Dad, you know, she's in the same class as us and said she wants to take us around, so we agreed. Who knew she even called her sister Song Yao? Song Yao has been staying at home and has never attended school. I thought she was pitiful, so I let her follow. I didn't expect things to turn out like this." After pondering for a moment, Lin Hongwei suddenly asked again, "What about Tang Wenbin? Have you asked him what's going on? What did he say?" "He said he had a cramp in his leg at the time, and as I watched, he started to panic and struggle in the water not long after, not as if he was okay." Lin Qinxue took out a previously planned statement and said, "At that time, Song Zhao said her sister knew how to water and kept urging her to go down to save people. I was too anxious at the time and didn't think much. Who knew that after Song Yao went down, not only did she not be able to save Tang Wenbin, but she also caused such a commotion. After she finished speaking, she sighed with a look of self-blame and distress. After Song Yao was rescued ashore, not only did she say that Tang Wenbin wanted to drown her, but she also felt that I had colluded with Tang Wenbin to harm her. After she finished speaking, she fell to the ground, and I couldn't even explain. I asked Tang Wenbin, and he was also very scared. I asked him to go back and tell his parents first. Now I'm just afraid that if Song Yao, if she dies, Tang Wenbin and I won't be treated as murderers, right? I heard that her father is just a second-rate person and very unreasonable. Finally, she buried her head in shame and said, "Dad, it's all my fault. I've caused trouble for you. If only I hadn't gone to the countryside today and didn't let Song Yao follow." Lin Hongwei understood and quickly comforted her upon hearing the words. "Don't be afraid, the situation is not as serious as you think. Since Song Yao can still accuse you after she comes ashore, the situation must not be too serious. If you're afraid, just go home and rest for a while. I'll call the hospital later to ask. Don't worry, this day won't collapse, let alone Dad." Lin Qinxue burst into tears and smiled, hugging Lin Hongwei and acting coquettishly. "Dad, you're so kind. I will definitely listen well and never mess around again in the future. In this life, she will never let her father go astray again and regret giving birth to her unfilial daughter. This time, she will become the pride of the whole family, replacing Song Yao to marry Xingyuan and becoming a wealthy woman. A person like Song Yao who is both rustic and rustic is not worthy of Xingyuan. She will never give Song Yao another chance to touch Xingyuan. It's just a pity that she survived this time. That Li Xingyuan is really sick. What are you doing there on a hot day when you have nothing to do? If it weren't for his troubles, Song Yao might have drowned in the river. Where would there be a chance to run ashore and accuse her and Tang Wenbin? Tang Wenbin is also a waste. She thought this person was so powerful that she couldn't even solve a rural girl. Now Song Yao and Li Xingyuan have caught the handle. Let Song Yao make such an accusation, but Song Yao cannot die. Otherwise, once the Song family reports the case, the public security will definitely investigate. What a bad luck. Anyway, even if Song Yao doesn't die this time, she will still have more means to deal with her in the future. Let her never flip over. She is a rural girl who is not even worthy of lifting Xingyuan's shoes. She should stay in her countryside honestly and recognize her identity. As a toad, where does one have the qualification to think of a white swan? Lin Qinxue disdainfully curled her lips, and the resentment in her eyes was like flowing poison, yet it was deeply hidden by her. Lin Hongwei didn't notice the expression on his daughter's face. He was thinking about something. After thinking for a while, he suddenly asked Lin Qinxue, "You said someone saved Song Yao. Who is that person? A man or a woman? Do you know his name?" Lin Qinxue quickly said, "He is also from our school, but he is one grade higher than me and Tang Wenbin. After the summer vacation, he will start the 3rd year of junior high school." After a pause, she added, "His name is Li Xingyuan, and there is only one grandmother at home. I heard he was an orphan adopted by his grandmother, and the family's conditions are not good either. He often misses classes at school and is said to be hanging out with those scumbags in society. He doesn't study well all day, and many people in school don't like him. However, his grades were decent, and coupled with the difficulties at home, the school teachers did not dismiss him. I'm not familiar with him, but Tang Wenbin seems to have a very bad relationship with him." Lin Hongwei smiled meaningfully and said, "So that's it. I know now. I'll handle this matter, you go back and rest first." Lin Qinxue saw that he had a plan, so she obediently said goodbye and didn't disturb his work. After she left, Lin Hongwei immediately picked up the phone and called an acquaintance in the hospital to inquire about Song Yao's situation. After learning that her physical signs were stable and there was no life-threatening condition, but she hadn't woken up yet. She hung up the phone and called an acquaintance at school to inquire about Li Xingyuan's situation. When he found out what he wanted, he called Tang Wenbin's father, Tang Jianhua. At this point, Tang Jianhua had already learned about Song Yao from Tang Wenbin and was about to contact Lin Hongwei. Upon receiving the phone call, the two immediately arranged a time to meet. This kind of thing is obviously inconvenient to talk about over the phone, so the two of them agreed to meet and have a detailed conversation. The meeting place was chosen at a tea house near the hospital. The two of them requested a private room, and after entering, Lin Hongwei was the first to ask, "What do you think of this matter?" Tang Jianhua immediately said, "My Wenbin has already told me that he had a leg cramp at the time, which was not intentional. That Song Yao said that intentionally, it should be Li Xingyuan doing something mischievous." Lin Hongwei raised his eyebrows without hesitation and said, "Do you doubt Li Xingyuan?" End of this chapter. Chapter 5. One glance scares away. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. One glance scares away. Well, this Li Xingyuan often absences from class and even fools around with those scoundrels in society. He has been looking down on my Wenbin and probably wants to use this to frame him. Tang Jianhua sneered disdainfully, but this kid is obviously too young. Like him, my Wenbin is a wild child without parents. Can anyone bully him? I have contacted his homeroom teacher, and that person has rushed to the county hospital to educate Li Xingyuan. I believe that boy will soon be honest at this point. Tang Jianhua's words suddenly changed, but I heard that your Lin and Song families seem to be relatives, so what do you think? Upon hearing these words, Lin Hongwei couldn't help but curse at the old fox. He said calmly, "Our two families have some relatives, but we haven't moved around for a long time. The old lady of the Song family is the daughter of the landlord, and our Lin family has long severed ties with them." Tang Jianhua smiled and skimmed the tea foam with a tea lid, saying meaningfully, "Is that right? But I heard that Lin Qinxue from your family even went to play with the Song family girl. If it weren't for her going to find that Song Yao, things wouldn't have been like this." This is complaining about Lin Qinxue. Lin Hongwei couldn't help but darken his face as he heard his meaning. "Brother Tang, is it boring to say these things now? My Shui'er has a kind heart, and only when that girl is pitiful will she follow. Who knew she would be so overconfident? Moreover, if it weren't for Wenbin's child's insistence on going down the river to fish or his leg cramps, Song Yao would have gone down to save him. To be honest, it's still Wenbin's child who has a greater responsibility, right?" When he spoke calmly, his tone was not heavy at all, but he didn't show any courtesy to Tang Jianhua. He directly threw the blame that Tang Jianhua had placed on Lin Qinxue to Tang Wenbin. As soon as Tang Jianhua saw that he couldn't take advantage of the situation, he cleverly stopped throwing blame and said, "I've already called the hospital to ask, and that girl's problem isn't serious. She'll be fine when she wakes up. Now as long as Li Xingyuan is honest, Song Yao, a little girl, will not have the courage to falsely accuse Qin Shui and Wenbin after she wakes up and scares her a few words. But I heard that Song Shuadong is a scoundrel and not very easy to deal with. I have already arranged for someone to solve Li Xingyuan on my end, and Song Shuadong's side will be handled by you. Is that okay? Anyway, you two can also be considered relatives. Even if you sever your relationship, this blood relationship will never break. After all, strictly speaking, he still needs to call you cousin. Your cousin can't stop listening, can he?" Lin Hongwei felt disgusted when he remembered Song Shuadong's ignorant and carefree appearance. What made him even more disdainful was that Song Shuadong didn't do anything serious all day, but he had a bunch of children. In order to have a son, she actually gave birth to a series of daughters. After giving birth, I don't care. I heard that except for my eldest daughter Song Zhao, none of the other girls were allowed to go to school. What a loss of life. He doesn't want relatives who only make him look embarrassed. Lin Hongwei smiled and said without a smile, "I will talk to him, but he is used to being lawless and may not listen to me. With his temperament, he may bite your family Wenbin and not let him go. Taking advantage of this opportunity to extort money, you'd better be mentally prepared. I understand that. Tang Jianhua's expression was disdainful. Song Yao is not a big deal. If he really dares to extort, then I dare to send him in. If I really want to do that, you won't have any objections, will you? Lin Hongwei's smile faded and he didn't hide his disgust towards Song Fuyao. Didn't I say that? I have nothing to do with him for a long time, he said. Besides, he himself is ignorant and inexperienced, so it's only right for him to go in and learn a lesson. If it could make him better from now on, it would be considered helping him. Tang Jianhua smiled with satisfaction, but felt a bit disdainful in his heart. Don't think he doesn't know, Song Shuadong's mother is Lin Hongwei's aunt. The Song family's life is not decent, and I haven't seen him lend a hand. This guy is really heartless. While they were talking, Li Xingyuan also saw Chen Xinmin, the homeroom teacher who came to the hospital not far away to educate him. As soon as Chen Xinmin found Li Xingyuan, he immediately gave him a stern scolding. Li Xingyuan, why are you here? I heard you slandered Lin Qinxue and Tang Wenbin. How could you do such a thing? Lin Qinxue and Tang Wenbin are both good students who are 1 year younger than you. As their senior, you don't want to take care of them, yet you still do such slander and rumors. Are you still not human? Li Xingyuan saw him spewing out in indignation alone, and quickly took several steps back in disgust, distancing himself from him to avoid being splashed by his spitting stars. Chen Xinmin blushed with anger upon seeing the situation and said, "What do you mean? What do you want to do when you step back so far? Why, I'm your homeroom teacher. You don't like to hear me, do you?" He looked at someone in his 40s, not very tall, but with slightly big eyes. At this moment, his eyes were wide-eyed and he looked like a toad in Li Xingyuan's eyes. Li Xingyuan couldn't bear to hear him spewing feces all over his mouth. Seeing many people being attracted to watch the excitement, he immediately began to mock and said, "Oh, Teacher Chen, why did you come? Did you hear these words from Tang Jianhua or Lin Hongwei? How much benefit did you charge them for running to the hospital in such a hurry to teach me a lesson?" Chen Xinmin, who had originally wanted to curse again, felt as if his throat had been choked and he said, "You Li Xingyuan, you are simply..." He opened his mouth several times before finally coming up with a good excuse. "Li Xingyuan, I see you're going too far. It's not enough to slander younger students. Even the class teacher dares to slander you. Do you think it's still 20 years ago? You are such a terrible student. If I had to say that you're just a rat dropper, you shouldn't have stayed at school to avoid bringing bad luck to the good students." He threatened, "If you immediately admit your mistake and go back to write a 10,000-word review, I can give you another chance and just pretend it hasn't happened. Otherwise..." He had just mentioned this when he suddenly heard a startled cry from the ward. "Yao Yao." Chen Xinmin was immediately startled. He looked suspiciously at the nearby ward and suddenly felt a strong sense of unease in his heart. What's going on? Didn't Tang Jianhua tell him that the little girl who had an accident was not a big deal? How can you call it like a dead person? Out of unease, Chen Xinmin ignored continuing to threaten Li Xingyuan and quickly stretched his neck to look into the hospital room. But a middle-aged woman rushed out in panic and said, "Doctor. Doctor, come and take a look. My Yao Yao seems to have become a fool." Chen Xinmin's heart immediately pounded, and he was all panicked. What, did that girl become a fool? Well. Then he came to threaten Li Xingyuan. He was feeling uneasy when he heard Li Xingyuan's sarcastic threat coming from beside him. "Teacher Chen, you've got a big deal going on this time. Song Yao has become a fool now. Do you think Tang Wenbin and Lin Qinxue can still escape?" "You. I don't know what you're talking about." Chen Xinmin panicked and denied it, but saw a thin little girl sitting on the hospital bed. Her small face was as pale as paper, and her eyes were terrifyingly black. At this moment, she looked straight at him. Like a water ghost. He was instantly panicked and ran away. How dare he stay and continue to threaten Li Xingyuan? Li Xingyuan looked coldly at his fleeing figure, sneered, and then walked into the hospital room, looking at Song Fuyao with some suspicion. He whispered to her, "What's wrong with you?" Song Fuyao remained silent, just staring straight at Li Xingyuan's head. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The male protagonist of the original book crawls for her. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. The male protagonist of the original book crawls for her. Li Xingyuan's heart furrowed when she saw her, and he couldn't help but ask again, "Are you okay?" Song Fuyao still didn't speak. She was very shocked at this moment because her eyes seemed to have undergone another mutation. She actually saw that the words on the label above Li Xingyuan's head had changed. From the previous, crazy criticism of villains, to the current, super potential stocks, investing in blood to make money. Also, there was Mr. Chen just now, who had a snobbish person label on his head. There is also a row of small characters below. Under the command of Tang Jianhua, come and solve Li Xingyuan. Song Fuyao stared fixedly at Li Xingyuan's head, somewhat curious about what the label was. When she first wore it, she was very shocked. At that time, her eyes were piercing, her whole body was weak, and her head was still swollen and painful, so she didn't bother to look closely. I just realized now that this label still carries changes. I don't know if that 300 taels of gold here will change, but she still wants to go and collect gold. Don't make her disappear. Song Fuyao blinked relentlessly, but the label on Li Xingyuan's head did not change. I don't know how long it takes for this tag to refresh or what patterns it has. Anyway, this label is also a very good golden finger for her. With such a label, wouldn't she be able to make a steady profit in treasure hunting, antique picking, stock trading, and investment business in the future? Song Fuyao rubbed his fingers excitedly and wished he could go treasure hunting now. At this moment, the voices of Song's mother and the doctor came from outside. Song Fuyao quickly gave Li Xingyuan a glance and even raised his index finger, making a gesture of silence. Li Xingyuan instantly understood. Watching Song's mother bring the doctor in, he silently stepped aside and watched as the doctor examined Song Fuyao. In the end, he came to a bad conclusion. There are two possibilities now. One is that the child drowned and was frightened, causing psychological problems. In that case, you as the head of the family should give her more care. She feels safe and should be able to recover. But if she suffers from hypoxia and causes brain damage, the situation will be very complicated. Our county hospital has limited conditions. It's best for you to take your child to a major hospital in the city for examination, so as not to delay treatment. Song's mother was extremely shocked and said, "Are you going to the big hospital in the city? Just soaking in water for a while? Is the situation so serious? Even the Tang family kids are fine." Upon hearing this, Li Xingyuan couldn't help but remind him, she had already suffered from heatstroke before going into the water. After being forced into the water, she was pulled into the water by Tang Wenbin, causing drowning and hypoxia. Can it not be serious? The doctor was shocked when he heard this and said, she also got heatstroke. How could she go into the water? After heatstroke, she already has no strength, and going into the water is too dangerous, it will be fatal. Li Xingyuan snorted sarcastically, she doesn't want to go down. Isn't this forced by someone? Lin Qinxue and Tang Wenbin have caused her so much trouble, but I have run away without a trace. It seems that I am feeling guilty. As soon as the doctor heard that there was still insider information about this matter, he suddenly felt overwhelmed and urged, she is suffering from both heatstroke and drowning. Where can her body tolerate it? You should inform your family as soon as possible and transfer her to another hospital. Otherwise, if it drags on for a long time, the child may completely lose hope of recovery and continue to do so in the future, even becoming more and more serious. After the doctor finished speaking, he hurriedly left, leaving Song's mother holding Song Fuyao in despair and crying, "Wo wo, my hard-working Yao Yao. What's wrong with you? What should I do if you do this?" Li Xingyuan looked at her in shock and couldn't help but feel a little disgusted. What's the use of crying at such times? Shouldn't we talk to the Tang and Lin families and send our daughter to a large hospital for examination first? But this little girl is so amazing, she even let the doctor deceive her. She has become a fool now, and the situation has escalated. If the Tang and Lin families want to settle down, they inevitably have to suffer from bleeding and pay some money. Even give him a sealing fee. This girl really has become a master of calculation, right? Li Xingyuan really admires it. When he was her age, why didn't he think of such a wonderful idea? Why did Lin Qinxue and Tang Wenbin calculate this girl's intelligence? Is it just going by the trick? Li Xingyuan's gaze towards Song Fuyao became increasingly bright. But Song's mother was still crying while holding Song Fuyao, causing Song Fuyao to feel annoyed. After waking up from a coma, she found that she had received all the memories of the original owner. She went through the plot of the novel again and gained a clearer understanding of the original protagonist's family, Lin Qinxue, and Tang Wenbin. Song's mother's name is Lu Manjun. She was originally a rural educated youth, but she fell in love with Song Xuedong, an uneducated and shameless scoundrel. The two naturally got married and then began to crazily have children. After giving birth to 7 daughters in a row, she finally gave birth to her precious son Song Jinbao. Song Zhao is the eldest daughter, the original owner Song Yao is the second daughter, and there are 5 younger sisters below. When Lu Manjun was pregnant with Song Yao, both of them hoped that the baby would be a son, but when they were born, they found out it was a girl, and both of them were very disappointed. This leads to Song Yao being far less favored than her sister Song Zhao and often being overlooked. But she is naturally well behaved and sensible. Since she can walk, she has been helping her family with work, just like a little angel. Unfortunately, the little angel miscarried. Lu Manjun and Song Xuedong were busy giving birth to a son and couldn't even see Song Yao's kindness. Instead, they often ignored her because she was too sensible. Originally, Song Yao was the female protagonist in the book. At the age of 13, she unexpectedly became the protagonist, Jin Jiji. She then took the whole family and moved to a big city to study. She met Xie, a school graduate from a wealthy family, and with Jin Jiji's help, Xie rose to fame and became the heir to the wealthy family. But due to the bullying of Lin Qinxue and Tang Wenbin, the Virgin Mary died in the summer river water. She had not yet had the chance to recognize the golden finger, and her life ended in the summer when she was 13 years old. Song Fuyao is different. She is not a little angel like the original owner, she is a dark-hearted king who has no emotions. Since Lu Manjun wants to cry, let her cry. Anyway, the original owner died quite wrongly, and no one knows about this yet, so let's assume she's crying for her daughter. Song Fuyao touched the pendant on his chest and then glanced at the back of his hand, which was receiving infusion. This novel, titled I Pampered the Domineering School Grass with My Golden Fingers, is a typical era of dog blood literature. The female lead, Lady Song Yao, is also soft-hearted. After receiving the golden finger, she often gives away good things casually, and is even more generous to the male lead, Xie, to the extent of bloodletting and flesh-cutting. Although she held her own golden finger, she was extremely humble in front of Xie. A good female lead is not appropriate, she insists on being Xie licking dog. I would rather wear street goods myself than buy branded clothes for Xie. I cook and wash clothes for Xie every day, serve tea and pour water, like a versatile little nanny. Xie is domineering, always trying to save face. Not only does he not understand Song Yao's hard work, but he also never gives her a good face when outside. Due to his attitude, everyone thought that Song Yao was a shameless gold digger, clinging to Xingyuan without letting go. Even Xingyuan's younger brother dared to throw a face at Song Yao and mock her. That's all, Xingyuan still has a lot of peach blossoms on his way. Those peach blossoms who had no ability to capture Xingyuan's heart despised Song Yao and wished they could tear her apart alive. When Song Fuyao was reading, he was almost disgusted to death. She came across a recommendation for this book online, saying it was super sweet and the female lead's golden finger was very interesting, which is why she clicked on this book. I didn't notice the result, but I was so angry that I wanted to change Song Yao's mind. Who knew that when she woke up, she became a supervillain like Song Yao? Fortunately, Song Yao has not yet met the domineering male protagonist Xingyuan in the book. She now knows the plot and can completely avoid this big phoenix who likes to eat soft and hard. Male lead. Sorry, climb for her, she doesn't recognize it. But it's this crazy villain Li Xingyuan. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The cheap old man who is hard to handle. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. The cheap old man who is hard to handle. Song Fuyao lifted his head from Lu Manjuan's arms and looked at Li Xingyuan with sparkling eyes. He is only 15 years old this year, and his height is actually close to 1.8 meters. The key is that he still has muscles on his body, which is not at all dry or thin. It's just a natural hanger. And that face, even in the entertainment industry of the 1990s, is still a top-level presence. Song Fuyao felt as if he had seen a shimmering money tree. How great it is to work for such a good seedling. She likes to be an unscrupulous boss. Li Xingyuan was covered in hair when Song Fuyao saw him, and suddenly had an impulse to flee. At this moment, Song Fuyao, who had received the news, finally rushed over. Previously, Lu Manjun wanted to find him, but she couldn't trust her daughter in the hospital. So when she went out, she just found acquaintances and entrusted them to help notify Song Fuyao, and then rushed back to the hospital. At present, Song Fuyao has finally arrived. He rushed into the hospital room and first saw Li Xingyuan. After a moment of confusion, he strode back to the bedside. Manjun. Song Fuyao asked urgently, I heard that Yao Yao had an accident. What's going on? How is she doing now? As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Lu Manjun suddenly let go of his daughter, rushed over and grabbed him, crying and saying, Shui Dong, Yao Yao is foolish. The doctor said she might have been scared, or she might have suffered from hypoxia and damaged her brain. She needs to be sent to a major hospital in the city for examination as soon as possible, otherwise she may have been like this for the rest of her life. Fuyao, you need to save Yao Yao. She's only 13 years old. If she becomes a fool, what will she do in the future? Song Fuyao's face suddenly became unusually ugly. He supported Lu Manjun and asked her, I heard that Yao Yao was harmed by someone. Where is the person who harmed her? Before Lu Manjun could explain in tears this time, Li Xingyuan beside him couldn't wait to say, it's Lin Qinxue and Tang Wenbin. Tang Wenbin went down the river to catch fish, pretended to have cramps in his legs, and they forced Song Yao to go down and save people. At that time, Song Yao had already suffered from heatstroke, and after going down, he was grabbed by Tang Wenbin and pulled into the water, almost drowning. When I passed by and went down to save someone, I heard Tang Wenbin threatening Song Yao not to speak out, otherwise I would kill her whole family. After speaking, he glanced at Lu Manjun and felt very disgusted, unable to figure out how she was treated as a mother. My daughter is like this, and the culprit has run away. She didn't want to quickly transfer her daughter to another hospital, take her to the city's major hospital for examination, and just cry. It's really useless. What's the use of crying alone? Can you still make your daughter cry back to being a normal person? Just thinking that Song Yao was pretending to be foolish, Li Xingyuan suddenly felt like he was a bit foolish. This girl is not really stupid. What's bothering him? Moreover, who knew that Lu Manjuan's crying was not a pretense? Daughters are so smart, it's impossible for a mother to be a fool, right? Li Xingyuan looked suspiciously at Lu Manjun, who was crying, and then at Song Fuyao, who had a fierce expression on his face. Suddenly, he became somewhat uncertain. Perhaps Song Yao followed her father. Does he dare to threaten my daughter? Do he still want to kill my whole family? That's arrogant enough. I'll go ask him how he wants to kill me now. Song Fuyao laughed angrily. He looked at Li Xingyuan again and said, "What's your name, kid? Did you save my daughter?" Li Xingyuan instinctively straightened his spine and said, "Well, I happened to pass by and heard someone shouting for help, so I went over. Thank you very much for this. I'll go find those two little bastards now. Can you help me prove it? Don't worry, your benefits will be indispensable when the time comes." Li Xingyuan grinned and revealed a neat set of white teeth. Of course, not a problem. He really wants to know how much sealing fee those two families plan to give him. Song Fuyao didn't know his thoughts and was very satisfied when he heard the words. "Then you come with me now." On the other side. After chatting with Tang Jianhua, Lin Hongwei went to the hospital. They didn't go directly to the ward, but first contacted acquaintances in the hospital to inquire about Song Yao's situation. Who knew that this question brought bad news? Tang Jianhua couldn't sit still for an instant and said, "What? You said Song Yao became a fool." Lin Hongwei didn't calm down anymore. Didn't she just soak in the water for a while? How could she become a fool? I've only heard of people drowning to death in the water, and I've never heard of anyone being drowned into a fool. The acquaintance shook his head and said, "I've asked. That child had heatstroke before going into the water, and it's not surprising that she had heatstroke in this weather. It's just that heatstroke is already very dangerous, and she drowned again, making the situation worse." As soon as he finished speaking, a nurse walked in and said, "Song Fuyao just arrived." After leaving these words, he walked out again. "She is here to report the news." Lin Hongwei and Tang Jianhua exchanged a glance, their faces both very unpleasant. After a moment of suppressed silence, Lin Hongwei stood up suddenly as if thinking of something. No good, Song Fuyao's temperament. If he finds out about this, he will definitely come to us. We need to stop him. We can't let him run to our unit to cause trouble. Upon hearing these words, Tang Jianhua immediately panicked. He is about to be promoted, and if Song Fuyao goes to his unit and causes trouble at this time, his promotion may be ruined. We really have to stop Song Fuyao, we can't let him cause trouble. He quickly stood up and said, "Then let's go and stop him." The two of them rushed out as they spoke, leaving the acquaintance shaking his head before getting up and following out. He needs to go over and persuade him. Lin Hongwei and Tang Jianhua's units are both very good. This is a rare opportunity, he needs to seize it. If we can help two people solve this problem, they will owe him a considerable amount of kindness. Tang Jianhua and Lin Hongwei walked very fast and really stopped Song Fuyao and Li Xingyuan. When the two of them saw Li Xingyuan, their pupils suddenly shrank. This kid is actually here too. Although the two did not know Li Xingyuan, they still guessed his identity at a glance. Lin Hongwei couldn't help but glance at Tang Jianhua, his eyes quite resentful. "Didn't you say you had already found someone to solve this kid?" Tang Jianhua was also very dissatisfied in his heart. In order to ask Chen Xinmin for help, he promised many benefits. Who knew that guy was just a waste, he couldn't even solve a stinky kid. However, how did this kid grow? Surprisingly, he is taller than them all. And that face. It looks too good. Their emotions were extremely complicated, and if it were their son, they would be extremely happy. Unfortunately, this kid is not only not from their family, but also against them. After seeing the two of them arrive, Song Fuyao stared at Li Xingyuan and was immediately very unhappy. "Oh, you guys came together," he sneered. "Is this an agreement? It's really a good time to come. The words were very harsh, and Lin Hongwei and Tang Jianhua both lowered their faces in dissatisfaction. Relying on his cousin's identity, Lin Hongwei took the lead in showing his elder demeanor and scolded him, "Song Fuyao, how did you speak? Tang and I rushed over when we heard the news. What is your attitude? Do you still have the face to ask me what my attitude is?" Song Fuyao didn't give any face. "Your daughter and his son have turned my daughter into a fool by causing trouble. Do you still think my attitude is not good?" He let out a roar and approached Lin Hongwei and Tang Jianhua step by step. "What's wrong? It has harmed my daughter, and I still want to give you a kowtow so that you can be satisfied, right? Lin Hongwei, do you feel like you have the ability to do whatever you want? Come teach me a lesson. Where did you get that face when you stepped on a horse?" End of this chapter. Chapter 8. All the big and small are showing off. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. All the big and small are showing off. Lin Hongwei was so angry that his whole face turned pig liver red. Even Tang Jianhua beside him couldn't help but sympathize with him. Song Fuyao speech is too unpleasant. Tang Jianhua looked at Song Fuyao with some disdain, but didn't want to be caught by Song Fuyao. Song Fuyao looked at his small gaze and burst into a frenzy. "Are you the same old man as Tang Wenbin? I have to ask you, how can you raise something like Tang Wenbin that's not as good as a beast? Surprisingly, he dares to threaten my daughter to kill all of my family. Now that I am here, is he here to kill me? Why didn't you dare to come?" "I was afraid because I knew I had committed something wrong, so I hid in his mother's arms to nurse and didn't dare to come out and meet people, did I? You said you look like a human, why don't you do anything in human affairs?" Good guy, his mouth was like a machine gun, spraying wildly. Tang Jianhua not only had a pig liver color on his face, but also his blood pressure skyrocketed. He even regretted coming to find Song Fuyao. "Nima, this damn thing is really hard to deal with. His mouth can really anger someone." Tang Jianhua couldn't help but glance at Lin Hongwei, his eyes quite resentful. "Song Fuyao is this kind of person, why didn't you even remind me?" Lin Hongwei saw it, but he didn't say anything. He just sneered and rolled his eyes in his heart. Why did he remind Tang Jianhua? What if he's stupid? If Tang Jianhua knew that Song Fuyao was this kind of person, would this guy still come with him? "Song Fuyao, what you said is too unpleasant." Lin Hongwei scolded angrily, but he was afraid of being criticized, so he quickly asked again, "By the way, what happened when you just said Tang Wenbin threatened to kill your whole family? Did he really say such a thing?" Although Song Fuyao was the one asking this question, when he finished speaking, his eyes turned to Tang Jianhua. Tang Jianhua was very displeased by him and said, "What are you looking at me for? My Wenbin couldn't have said such things, there must be a misunderstanding here." At this point, he quickly glanced at Li Xingyuan and quickly added, "Brother Song. I know you're angry, but it's better for you to first understand the truth of the matter. Don't believe some people's lies. My family's Wenbin has always been a good student with excellent character and academic performance. He is too outstanding to avoid offending some people. After all, there is always a kind of person in this world who, despite being trash, doesn't know how to reflect and instead blames others for being too good, and wants to use some despicable means to destroy those excellent people. Brother Song, think about it. My family's Wenbin is only 14 years old this year. With such a young child, not to mention killing someone, he dare not even kill a chicken. How could you possibly say such a thing? I'm afraid some people are not satisfied with my Wenbin and intentionally use it as a way to ruin my Wenbin." After speaking, he looked coldly at Li Xingyuan, the meaning was self-evident. Everyone who was drawn out to watch the commotion by the sound of arguments was all surprised, their eyes kept turning around on their faces, and they didn't know who to believe for a moment. At first glance, Song Fuyao appears to be a troublemaker, unlike a serious person. Lin Hongwei and Tang Jianhua are different. They look refined and cultured, much more refined than Song Fuyao. The key is that they dress well, just like those who sit in the office with iron rice bowls. Looking at Li Xingyuan again, this young man is tall and has an exceptionally good appearance. It is really hard to believe that he is a bad person. But Tang Jianhua is obviously very dissatisfied with him. Is that the bad person mentioned earlier him? This is unbelievable. Just as everyone's thoughts were different and shocked, Song Fuyao spoke up again. He snorted disdainfully and said, "I just said that my sons are all animals. What good thing can you be like me? You're really shameless. So old, how dare you bully a half-year-old child? Your son did some animal business and you don't have to worry about it. He has a knack for planting and framing. Unfortunately, I won't eat your tricks. Dare to bully people in front of me, are you foolish or blind when I'm here? This kid saved my daughter. How dare you bully him in front of me while riding a horse? You're dead if you think I'm dead." After he finished speaking, he lifted his sleeves and put on a posture of wanting to hit someone, which scared the onlookers to retreat, afraid of being accidentally beaten. At this moment, someone stood up to make amends and said, "Comrade, please calm down. This is a hospital, not a place to take action. I just heard that Comrade Song's daughter had an accident. The most important thing at the moment is to treat Comrade Song's daughter first. I think you all have no objection, right? Comrade Song, what do you think?" Upon hearing this, Song Fuyao immediately glared at the person with displeasure. The old man wanted to harm him, didn't he? If he doesn't agree to stand him up now, wouldn't it appear that he doesn't care about his daughter's illness? The old man really didn't have a good heart. He was about to get angry when he suddenly heard Li Xingyuan calmly say, "Then report it to the police. Since someone suspects that I have slandered Tang Wenbin, then report it to the police and let them investigate. And the injury on Song Yao's body should also be shown to the public security to see how it was caused." He sneered. Perhaps Tang Wenbin has never killed a chicken, but he almost drowned Song Yao and threatened to kill her entire family if she dared to speak up, which is a fact. If you don't believe it, you can report the case and have the police personally ask your precious son to see if he has said those things. But judging from your reaction, your precious son asked you to come and wipe his butt, but he didn't tell you the whole truth. Such a great filial son, you're really lucky. As an old man, Tang Jianhua was so angry that his blood pressure began to soar again. Mad, what kind of luck is he having today? First, he was fiercely criticized by Song Fuyao, a scoundrel. Now even Li Xingyuan, a little brat, dares to mock him. Did he go out without looking at the almanac? However, Tang Wenbin did not tell him that he also threatened Song Yao to kill her whole family. Li Xingyuan dares to make him report to the police. Can Tang Wenbin really say such things? Or is this kid intentionally deceiving him? Tang Jianhua looked at Li Xingyuan with suspicion, and seeing that his expression didn't seem to be lying, his heart suddenly sank. Is it difficult? Did Tang Wenbin really say that? That kid. Is that kid crazy? Who on earth did he learn these messy things from? Tang Jianhua was still pondering when he suddenly heard Song Fuyao sneer, "Okay, then report the case. Let the police investigate." No way. Tang Jianhua didn't even think about it and quickly interrupted. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, he quickly made up for it. "I heard the little girl was frightened. It's important to treat the child right now, don't you think?" Lin Hongwei also advised, "That's right, Yao Yao's illness is urgent. Let's treat her first. Actually, we came to the hospital to solve this problem and help Yao Yao treat her first. Yao Yao is still young and a girl, so don't leave any lingering effects. After all, the conditions of the county hospital are a bit poor, why not transfer to the city hospital for a look?" After speaking, he exchanged a tacit look with Tang Jianhua. "We absolutely cannot let Song Fuyao report the case, we need to quickly get rid of this person. Only then will they have time to act and seal Li Xingyuan's mouth." Coincidentally, Song Yao's current condition is a wonderful excuse. If Song Fuyao refuses to transfer to another hospital, then he doesn't care about his daughter's life or death. What face does he have to blame them? End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Song Fuyao begins her performance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Song Fuyao begins her performance. Lin Hongwei and Tang Jianhua secretly poked and anticipated, but unfortunately, Song Fuyao once again disappointed them. Okay, then let's transfer my daughter to the big hospital in the city first. Now, let's transfer. Song Fuyao spoke aggressively. If my daughter can't be cured, we'll have to be a fool in the future. Don't even think about getting rid of your little beast. Lin Hongwei and Tang Jianhua listened to the little beast sound, and their veins on their foreheads began to jump wildly. They wanted to accuse Song Fuyao of not speaking too harshly, but when faced with his fierce gaze, they were stunned and didn't dare to speak. As the saying goes, those who are barefoot are not afraid of wearing shoes. When a man is angry, his blood splatters 5 steps. Song Fuyao was originally a promiscuous second-rate rascal. If he really wants to go crazy, they can't resist it. To deal with such a reckless man, one can only rely on intelligence, not hard work. Their future is bright, just like that precious jade bottle. How can they compare with broken bricks and tiles like Song Fuyao who has been shot? Lin Hongwei and Tang Jianhua glanced at each other again and quickly chose not to argue with Song Fuyao. Okay, transfer now. Lin Hongwei quickly said, I'll arrange it right away. Don't worry, Fuyao, Yao will definitely get better. Song Fuyao grinned at him and said, you better pray that the doctors in the big hospital can cure her. Otherwise, what kind of person she will become will be what I want your little beast to become. Lin Hongwei is so angry that he has the heart to kill him. This Song Fuyao has kicked his nose on his face, right? He only has Shuer as his daughter. How dare Song Fuyao try to touch his daughter? Mad, what are you pretending to be with him? Song Fuyao has given birth to so many daughters on his own, and he doesn't even teach Song Yao. Now he's pretending to be a loving father, how can he have such a face? I just want to pretend to ask him for money, right? When he can't see it. Humph, transferring to another hospital, right? Then turn around. He wants to see if that girl is really sick. Lin Hongwei held his breath and took a deep look at Xingyuan before calling on Song Fuyao to handle the transfer for Song Yao. Tang Jianhua also followed along. As soon as the hospital staff heard that they wanted to transfer Song Yao to the city hospital, they called the other side and after some negotiation, they agreed to receive treatment, but they had to take the person there themselves. The county hospital has simple conditions and no ambulance. Although the city hospital has one, the number of vehicles is limited. Unless it is a critically ill patient in need of emergency treatment, it cannot be dispatched. The current situation of Song Yao obviously does not belong to this category, so they have to go there on their own. Song Fuyao has no objection to this, but he only has one bicycle. So he looked directly at Lin Hongwei and Tang Jianhua and said, who will arrange the car? Lin Hongwei took the lead in saying, can brother Tang arrange it? Tang Jianhua was so angry that he cursed in his heart. These two bastards really deserve to be cousins. What a shameless person. Unfortunately, he cannot refuse yet. If people know that he can't even arrange a car, what would they think of him? Moreover, this disaster was caused by his son. He's been on the verge of promotion lately, and if he gets promoted because of this, his losses will be huge. Tang Jianhua squeezed out a smile and said, sure, I'll arrange it. After speaking, he directly borrowed the hospital's phone number and called the unit to borrow a car. After hanging up the phone, he asked Song Fuyao, the car has been borrowed, but it won't be available now. We'll have to wait for over an hour. Is that okay? Song Fuyao nodded and said, sure. Anyway, his daughter is still receiving intravenous fluids. Tang Jianhua took the opportunity to find an excuse to leave and said, "Then I'll go back and get the money. I'll be back soon." He needs to take advantage of this time and go back and ask Tang Wenbin carefully. Lin Hongwei didn't go back, instead he suggested going to see Song Yao. With a worried expression on his face, he made Song Shuadong feel nauseous and said, "Are you planning to just go see Yao Yao empty-handed?" Lin Hongwei was almost so angry that his face was crooked. It was only through years of cultivation that he couldn't break his skills that he said, "Look at you. Where did you think of it? Can I go see Yao Yao with empty hands? I was worried about Yao Yao's situation before, so I rushed over without considering anything else. Now that Yao Yao has woken up, I will go buy her some fruit." By the way, what kind of fruit does she like to eat? Song Shuadong was asked. How did he know what fruit his daughter likes to eat? But it is impossible for him to lose face in front of Lin Hongwei. He gave Lin Hongwei a straight glance and said, "Why don't you just choose the good ones? My daughter is not picky." Lin Hongwei tried hard to squeeze out a smile and said, "Then I'll go buy it now." He is patient. When Song Shuadong saw him leave, he called on Li Xingyuan to follow him. When there was no one around, he immediately warned, "Don't look at those two old boys who look like dogs, they're not really good things. When I go to the city, they will definitely come to see you and want to seal your mouth. Don't slack off easily when the time comes, make sure they bleed more." Li Xingyuan looked at him in surprise and said, "Do you want me to accept their sealing fee?" Song Shuadong disdainfully tugged at the corner of his mouth and said, "If you don't accept it, they can let you go. After saving my daughter, can I still repay the kindness and cause you to be bullied by them? But don't take the initiative to ask for a price, otherwise be careful if they accuse you of extortion. Just wait for them to make a bid and don't easily agree." Of course Li Xingyuan understood, but he didn't expect that Song Shuadong would also understand so well. Thinking of Song Yao, who was like an abacus expert, and Lu Manjun, who could only cry, he instantly understood. It seems that the girl is inherited from her father. Just as he was thinking about it, he heard Song Shuadong continue to say, "Thank you very much for this matter today. If there's more, I won't say it. There's not enough time today. When I come back from the city, please settle it for me. Thank you very much. As for the sealing fees for those two families, let's take them as my heartfelt wishes." Li Xingyuan. Great, the truth is out. That girl is indeed inherited from her father, these two have become masters of calculation. Not long after the two finished speaking and returned to the ward, Lin Hongwei also came in carrying a fruit basket. Perhaps it was shameless, he actually bought a boutique fruit basket, with several types of fruits all placed in the basket, which looked very attractive. Song Shuadong took it over without hesitation and asked Lu Manjun to take it and wash it clean. Lin Hongwei's face was smiling, and his heart was about to spray Song Shuadong to death. This bastard. Wait for him. He had been slandering for a while before he regained his anger and began to calmly scrutinize Song Fuyao. Seeing her really stunned, my heart tightened. But he didn't give up and walked over directly, looking into her eyes and asking, "Yao Yao, do you still remember Shuer and Tang Wenbin?" Song Fuyao looked at the label on his head, his eyes suddenly widened with a look of extreme fear. Ah. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Woo. Please. Tang Wenbin, let me go. I'm so scared. She screamed in terror and swung her limbs back and forth, slapping Lin Hongwei directly in the face amidst chaos. With a loud bang, Lin Hongwei's glasses were all knocked off. Lin Hongwei's face turned black with anger. Just before he could get angry, he was angrily pushed away by Song Shuadong. "Lin Hongwei, what are you doing?" Lin Hongwei was pushed unsteadily and collided directly with the hospital bed, causing the bed to tilt and making a piercing friction sound. He looked up angrily, about to get angry, but saw a dazzling blood color. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Stealing blood and recognizing the Lord. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 10. Stealing blood and recognizing the Lord. Looking at the dazzling blood, Lin Hongwei's pupils instantly dilated, and soon he rolled his white eyes and collapsed to the ground. He faints from blood. However, at this moment, Song Fuyao had already been attracted by the screaming Song Fuyao and had not even noticed Lin Hongwei's reaction. Xingyuan noticed him and was startled. He looked at Song Fuyao, who was still screaming and struggling, and suddenly felt blessed. He ran out to call for a doctor. At this moment, Song Fuyao's screams had already alarmed the people around him, and many people curiously gathered to watch the excitement, wanting to know what had happened. What's wrong with this child? Oh my goodness, she's not looking right now. Why did you bleed so much? Song Fuyao felt uneasy as he listened to his daughter's screams. Before, Song Yao was very sensible and never let him worry, so he didn't pay much attention. Now listening to her frightened screams, he realized that his daughter was also afraid. It's all his fault for not having the ability, otherwise how dare those two brute beasts Lin Qinxue and Tang Wenbin bully his daughter like this. He forcefully pressed Song Fuyao down, otherwise she would continue to wave her arms to avoid bleeding more. When Song Fuyao was struggling just now, he not only pulled off the infusion needle, but also let the wound bleed. However, the amount of bleeding is not significant, it just looks quite scary. Seeing many people gathered around the entrance of the ward, she screamed several times and helped Lin Qinxue and Tang Wenbin become famous. She also didn't forget another important thing. Because Song Fuyao was holding her to comfort her, she secretly used a pendant to suck up the blood that had just flowed out under the cover of Song Fuyao's body. This pendant is a jade gourd that the original owner picked up from the soil while digging wild vegetables up the mountain. The small one, the jade material is still very poor, looks cheap and of poor quality. However, the original owner did not mind. She has never received anything good since childhood, and even such a low-quality jade gourd is a rare treasure for her. After all, she found it herself. So after washing the jade gourd, she tied it with a rope and put it around her neck. Usually hidden close to oneself, no one knows. Now that the original owner has been killed, this jade gourd is still hanging on her body. Song Fuyao thought of the golden finger described in the book and felt that it should not be wasted, so she decided to try to see if she could shed blood and recognize the master. I don't know if I can recognize this golden finger even after changing the core. So she cried and begged Lin Qinxue and Tang Wenbin to let her go, while secretly dripping blood to acknowledge her master, without any delay. Poor Song Fuyao didn't even know that he was being treated as a tool by his cheap daughter. At this moment, listening to Song Fuyao's screams of fear, he was rarely aroused with a kind father's heart. He almost hated Lin Qinxue and Tang Wenbin, these two scourges. Song Fuyao's shout stunned the onlookers who were watching the excitement. Although they had heard before that a little girl had become a fool, they had no idea what was going on. Now listening to Song Fuyao's screams, the onlookers are filled with righteous indignation. That Lin Qinxue and Tang Wenbin are also too bad. Surprisingly, he bullied a good little girl like this. Someone even asked, who are Lin Qinxue and Tang Wenbin by her name. I'm not sure, they're two bad guys anyway. That's too much. How old is this child? I heard she was foolish. It turns out she was being bullied like this. You see, she's afraid of being like this. How much bullying has she been subjected to? When Xingyuan rushed over with the doctor, he heard everyone's discussion. The doctor thinks the head is big. Others don't know who Lin Qinxue and Tang Wenbin are, but he has already heard of them. I thought Song Yao's trouble would soon be transferred to the city hospital and he wouldn't be in a difficult situation anymore. Who knew this person was leaving and could still cause such a thing? That Lin Hongwei is really a big person, why can't he do some human affairs? Now it's okay, it scared Song Yao to the point of breaking down and going crazy, shouting out Lin Qinxue and Tang Wenbin. Is he satisfied? The doctor walked quickly into the ward, only to find Lin Hongwei lying on the ground. He was startled, almost thinking that Lin Hongwei had been killed by Song Fuyao. He walked over and took a closer look, only to find that there was no obvious external injury on the cargo. He quickly reached out to touch it and found that the person was still warm, and the carotid artery was jumping vigorously, which made him secretly breathe a sigh of relief. He instinctively looked at Song Fuyao, but saw several glaring bloodstains on the hospital bed. He quickly turned his head and asked Li Xingyuan, "What's wrong with him? Why did he fall to the ground?" Li Xingyuan glanced at Lin Hongwei, who was lying on the ground with disdain, and said, "I'm not very clear either. It seems like he saw the blood on Song Yao's hand and fell down. Is it blood sickness?" The doctor looked incredulously at Lin Hongwei, who was lying on the ground and unable to stand up. "Can't it really be blood sickness? This symptom is also too severe." At this moment, Lin Hongwei woke up leisurely. "What's wrong with me?" He frowned suspiciously, propped up his body and wanted to get up, but only halfway through when his eyes saw the bloodstains on the bed. In an instant, his eyes rolled and he collapsed again. The doctor beside him was so scared that he quickly helped him, but Lin Hongwei was too heavy to hold on. He could only watch as Lin Hongwei collapsed and sat on the ground. It was Li Xingyuan who helped him drag Lin Hongwei out. However, this kid is not kind enough to help. He just thinks that Lin Hongwei's demeanor is quite interesting and should be seen by more people. Anyway, isn't this person quite arrogant? When I first arrived, I wanted to scare him with my eyes cut. The doctor, however, was unaware of Li Xingyuan's malicious intentions and even regarded him as a helpful person, praising him fiercely, "Young man, thank you so much. You are a good person." Li Xingyuan gave a brilliant smile and revealed his white teeth, saying, "You should learn from good examples and do good things." At this moment, Lu Manjun washed the fruits and came back to see Lin Hongwei, who was limp all over. He couldn't help but be taken aback and said, "What's wrong with him?" She was a bit worried. Lin Hongwei might have knocked Song Fuyao unconscious, right? Li Xingyuan saw her concern and immediately explained, "Oh, he faints blood." As soon as Lin Hongwei woke up, he heard Li Xingyuan's words and suddenly became anxious. "No, I didn't, I just got hit a little earlier and felt a bit uncomfortable." He doesn't want his blood sickness to be known, otherwise wouldn't he be laughed at to death? Moreover, his words were deliberately vague, which could make those who heard him mistake him for being beaten by Song Fuyao. Lin Hongwei had a small plan in his heart, but he didn't want to be exposed by Li Xingyuan just as his words fell through. He only heard him exaggeratedly ask, "Just now, when Song Yao screamed, it seemed like she accidentally hit your face. Is that so serious?" Lin Hongwei was so angry that he couldn't speak. If he publicly admits to being directly slapped by Song Yao, will he still have this face? Feeling the surprised gazes from around, Lin Hongwei almost choked Li Xingyuan's heart. Lu Manjun became anxious and said, "What are you saying? How could Yao Yao scream?" Without waiting for Li Xingyuan to answer, she quickly rushed into the hospital room with a washed fruit basket and said, "Yao Yao." At this moment, Song Fuyao didn't have the heart to talk to her, because just now, she discovered that the golden finger had successfully recognized the Lord. End of this chapter.